month of November. Welcome everyone. What a nice crowd tonight. Can I please ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, we're up to item number 3, which is roll call, please.
Mr. Cole.
Here.
Mr. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Knight.
Here.
Mr. Schaefer. Here. Mr. Brothers.
Here. Thank you. All right, item number 4, adopting the agenda. I'm going to so move that we adopt the agenda. No addendums tonight, right?
None.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please call roll.
Mr. Brothers.
Aye.
Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay, we're up to item number 5, approval of the minutes. Jason, you're going to have to help me with how I word this. We are going to
Approve the minutes as written and waive the reading for
Okay.
the October 11th regular meeting.
all right, we're going to do that. Okay, we have a motion, got a second. Anybody have any questions? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Brothers.
Aye.
Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye. All right, we're up to item number 6, which is hearing in the public. Not have anybody request to speak tonight, so we are moving to item 7, which is approval of invoices.
Make the motion that we pay the bills. I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second. Anybody have any questions, any discussion? If not, please call roll.
Mr. Knight.
Aye.
Mr. Brothers.
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer.
Aye.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Okay, we're up to item 8, which is school report. And it is on Walker Elementary tonight, so Mr. Graholi,
Yeah, sounds
take it
good.
away.
All right, thanks so much for having me today. Just a few things from the elementary. Mrs. Bartley and I got together and just put a few things together. Over the course of the school year, teachers have been working really hard with Tom Fry, a data consultant, really looking at the school data and teachers coming together to just look more in depth, working together to set student goals and building goals. So we're really proud of that work. That led's been Mrs. Coates Everett and Dr. Rush, so thanks for that. Parent-teacher conferences were awesome. Our teachers went above and beyond, meeting times before and after school on multiple days. They had conferences with over 600 families, which we're really impressed with. The vast majority were in person, so we're really proud of that. The Thanksgiving food drive was a huge success at Walker Elementary School. All the food benefited Mount Zion. We collected over 3,800 items. We had a school contest. Mr. Fletcher's class, they won with 475, so they had a nice little donut party today, thanks to the PTO. Right now we're doing a couple of Pbis initiatives within the building, positive behavior interventions and supports. This past week we celebrated with our students. We had success assemblies for every single grade level where we reviewed our Pbis initiatives, ROARs, for being respectful, optimistic, accountable, responsible. You're going to have success at Canton local schools. We got to celebrate kids for their awesome successes by handing out different awards, doing some prize raffles, handed out a lot of cool Wildcat gear to our kiddos. So that was really great to celebrate our kids that way. And then as a staff, something that we're doing this year is called the 5 Languages of Appreciation. It's kind of like the 5 love languages if you've ever done that with your spouse. And every week we kind of focus on a different aspect of that, quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, as long as it's appropriate touch. We only stress appropriate touch at Canton local schools, and tangible gifts. And we had over 40 staff members agree to take the survey to find out what their personal appreciation languages, and we're sharing out with staff so we could, just build that culture together a little bit more. And then last but not least, we're having our annual turkey trot next Wednesday Mr. Knoll is going to lead that, so we're going to be doing that next Wednesday. Throughout the day, each grade level is going to run in the field. We're going to have a little race there for the kids with some prizes. So a lot of great stuff happening over at Walker Elementary. Check us out on Facebook. You'll see a lot of the pictures there. So
Thank you, Mr.
you
Knoll.
got it.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to item 9, which is the treasurer's report.
Right. Two things tonight. First thing, as usual, is the monthly financial reports. As you'll turn to Exhibit TA1, first page is the cash reconciliation for the month ended October 31st. Our total deposit accounts total $5,653,736.81. Our total investments, $20,561,236.58. For a total reconciled bank balance after outstanding items of $26,091,475.92. Page 2 is a listing of our operating and our construction investment accounts. Those tied to the totals listed on page 1 of the report. And then page 3 is the comparison month to date through 2021 for the same period, comparing properties are going to be coming off, those abatements are going to be expiring soon, so we'll start collecting real estate taxes on those. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, I listed there, our real estate taxes consist of about 23.5% of our general fund budget. So, pretty significant chunk of that budget comes from real estate taxes. Line 1.02 is the public utility personal property tax. We've talked quite a bit about this. Our public utility taxes have continued to increase since 2012. Right now, we're collecting a projection of about $7.2 million for this fiscal year, which is more. AEP Ohio pays us more than all of our other taxpayers combined, which is good and bad. If there's ever an issue there, we're pretty reliant on one taxpayer. The plus side is we're seeing a very significant portion of our operations funded by utility taxpayer rather than our residents, businesses taking on the lion's share of that cost. Public utility taxes consist of, if real estate was 23.5, public utilities was 27% of our general fund. So, the only concern there, obviously, if there's change in legislation, like with the TPP, the tangible personal property, when they took that away from businesses, any change in legislation could definitely impact our revenue situation. We haven't heard anything or any legislative warnings of that, but we keep our eyes open, ears open for any of that, and we'll report back if we can. 1.035 unrestricted state grants and aid, that's our foundation funding. As I touched on, the state's implemented a new funding formula. It's called the Fair School Funding Plan. The plan changes the way schools are funded. Students are now funded where they're educated as opposed to where they reside. As a result, there will be significant changes in state aid line items for historical comparisons. And then the state's still pulling data for the current year, so everything that we're getting right now is estimates based off of last year's data. Originally, we were supposed to have that by October. That's kind of why we wanted to hold off on doing the forecast. That's been pushed back until December, and who knows, it may even trickle into 2022 before we get actual numbers for this year where our funding is going to land. What's concerning in that, we have requirements for things we have to spend. We still don't know what levels we have to spend for gifted, for our economically disadvantaged student success and bonus funds. Those numbers haven't been given to us. So it's a concern. Hopefully they'll waive some of those requirements if we're not able to meet those spending requirements because we're getting that information so late. I'll keep you updated on the information as we get it. Last year we received $8.5 million. This year I'm budgeting $8,050,000. Majority of that decrease is because of exactly what we talked about with open enrollment. While open enrollment's recorded in a separate line, our community school students, we receive the basic aid for those students, and then we have a deduction later. Since we're not going to receive that money, community schools are going to be directly funded. It's going to reduce how much we receive on the revenue side, but it's also going to reduce how much we have to spend when we get down to purchase services. You'll see that as well. Restricted grants and aid. We do have about a $470,000 increase there. In the old budget for the state, they had Student Success and Wellness Funds were required to be tracked in a separate fund, Fund 467, that was the state restricted fund. In this biennial budget, it's rolled in with our economic disadvantage funding that's tracked in the general fund. So it boosts our general fund revenues, but then a lot of those expenses that we've incurred in Fund 467 now get moved to the general fund as well. So you will see that our expenditures for salaries and benefits and contracted services are going to be a little bit higher this year compared to last year because those funds are now tracked in the general fund instead of a separate fund. So that's all I want to touch on the revenue side. Expenditures, salaries and benefits is line 3.01, 14.6 million budgeted for this year. Last year that number was 14 million, so about $600,000 difference there, the 600,000. Employee retirement and benefits. Again, we had additional staff that we're funding out of general fund. Also, our insurance went up 3.9% this year. We did receive 2 premium holidays again, just like we did last year. That's why we're now seeing a huge increase there. Beyond fiscal year 22, we do budget for a 7% increase and only 1 premium holiday. That's based on the recommendation from the Council of Governments who we get our insurance from. Their recommendation is to budget for only 1 premium holiday, 7% increase in insurance. And from what we're hearing, this is a relatively heavy year for claims with 2020 and not a lot of elective surgeries happen. A lot of those are taking place this year, so they've taken a little bit of a hit in claims. So whether or not we get 2 premium holidays is up in the air next year. And the last couple of years we've been 3 to 4% for insurance increases that may also be a little bit higher. So that's why you see a pretty significant jump from 2022 to 2023 and beyond. Purchase services. A big chunk of purchase services is our open enrollment costs, community school costs. As we talked about on the revenue side, those are eliminated because there's direct fund to go to schools. So our purchase services has gone down from $3.4 million last year to $2.6 million this year. Other costs included in there are utilities, out-of-district special ed placements, things like that, all fall under purchase services. Employees we hire through the county are included there as well. Not a significant amount of increase projected beyond this year, just general inflationary costs beyond 2022. Supplies and materials. Represent textbooks, office supplies, classroom supplies, and janitorial supplies. The supplies and materials related to the COVID-19 pandemic have largely been covered by ESSER grant funds. We'll continue to use ESSER funds as they're available for that. So we're not expecting a big increase there, but we are projecting a pretty hefty inflationary increase in supplies costs for this year and beyond, because as we all know, as we go buy things, and everything's more expensive now than it was a year ago. Hopefully, we'll start to see an end to that, but we're budgeting for that for this year and beyond in the forecast. Capital outlay. We've talked a lot about our bus fleet. Our bus fleet is in great shape. Right now, unless grant funding becomes available, we're not looking to upgrade any buses this year or next. We're in really good shape. But beyond that, starting in fiscal year 24, we've projected replacing 2 buses a year each year in the forecast after that. Principal and interest and other fiscal charges, line 4.055 and 4.06. That's the capital lease that we have for the state share of the middle school. Until the state funds come in for that, we'll continue to see that line item reported. Once we get the proceeds from that, we'll be able to pay off the capital lease, and we'll no longer have those line items there. But we're projecting that for the 5 years. Hopefully, we get the funding before that. But we do have it listed in here for the full 5 years forecast. Other objects, mostly audit costs, costs to pay the county auditor for settlement fees, things like that, go into other objects. Bottom line, at the end of this year, I'm projecting excess revenues over expenses of $1,927,722, and an ending cash balance of $11.8 million. By the 5th year of the forecast, I show the cash balance with everything we just talked about sitting at about $7.7 million. We do start to get into a deficit spending situation by the last year of the forecast. But again, we use conservative estimates on the revenue side, low revenue estimates, and Unless there's questions, I recommend the 5-year forecast as presented for approval.
Okay, I so move on items A and B.
I'll second.
All right, any questions, discussion? Please call roll.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mr. Cole?
Aye.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Knight?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shasta. All right, we're up to item number 10, which is communications. Yep, students of the month coming first thing. Okay.
We have our October Wildcats of the month. Faith Taylor, will you come forward, please? Faith is the daughter of Carrie and Jeremy Taylor. She's been involved in National Honor Society, National Technical Honor Society, six-man mentoring, Wildcats Christian athletes, bleacher creatures, student leadership, and class secretary. Sports include cross-country, soccer, track, and basketball. Fine arts and graphic design, and was just last week Mamma Mia cast member. Community involvement includes stadium cleanup, youth girls basketball coach, senior citizens prom, balloon liftoff, lemonade stands, summer food program, safety world, and girls on the run. After graduation, she plans to attend college to study psychology, eventually becoming a forensic psychologist. If she could sit on the park bench for an hour with anyone, it would be Taylor Swift. Not only is she one of my favorite artists of all time, she is also a very strong role model for young women. I have always been in love with her music and have looked up to her as a successful, strong woman ever since I was a little girl. I would love to just talk about her experiences and how she dealt with such an interesting lifestyle as a young teenager. She will always be someone I look up to for the independence, strength, and success that she achieved at such a young age and maintained through her adult life. And she could also sing her new 10-minute song. I think the best thing about being a teen is not having to have everything figured out. Although pressure is beginning to be put on us now that we have started our senior year, we are still in an age when the answer can be, I'm not sure what my plans for the future are. Is still acceptable in many cases. At such a young age, it is important to have the opportunity to explore and think about many different options rather than pick the first path that comes to mind or seems easiest. Once we leave high school and enter the real world, it is frowned upon not to have a plan. So I think we as teens should take advantage of this time of exploration before we need to make decisions and come up with a life plan. And finally, the most important part of school is balancing your academic and social life. It is important to focus on schoolwork and stay on top of your grades while also maintaining a healthy social life, the part that makes it fun. Congratulations, Faith. Our second Wildcat of the month is Trevor Paul. Trevor is the son of Michael and Angela Paul. He's been in six-man mentoring, academic challenge, Triumph, and Canton South Dungeon Cats for 1 year. He's been involved in his first singles boys tennis team member, and boys bowling is a member of the bowling team. In fine arts, he's been the student director of the Canton South Wildcat Marching Band, trombone and marching band and pep band, tenor saxophone in the marching band and pep band, and the concert and jazz band. He played piano in the jazz band for 2 years, trombone in Canton Youth Symphony, and Canton South Graphic Design. Community involvement includes National Honor Society, Ambassador to Youth Leadership, Academic Stark County, Representative to Canton Local Board of Education, and works at KFC in North Canton. He plans to study education at the Ohio State University. What hashtag would summarize his high school experiences? Make sure I get this right. To all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onion on a sesame seed bun. Hashtag. Forgot the hashtag. I chose that because I think it's kind of funny, and there are a lot of stuff going on in the hashtag, which I think really summarizes what high school is all about. If he had a theme song, it would be the Canton South Fight Song. Just because marching band has been a huge part of his high school experience, and he would not be who he is without it. The coolest thing that ever happened at school, this year we were at the Claymont game. We beat them pretty badly, and we were celebrating. Then there were fireworks that started going off behind us while we were playing the fight song and some other stuff. I don't know what that was, some other stuff. It was pretty awesome. Congratulations, Trevor.
Okay, you want to take it from here, Mr. Jackson?
Absolutely, yep, we'll get rolling here. First of all, congratulations, guys, both of you, awesome, thank you so much. As far as athletic council report, we're getting started here. I'm gonna mention a few things on my superintendent report, but we're getting started here with our, winter sports season. It's hard to believe how fast everything's gone there. Right now, our girls basketball team is shut down right now. We're gonna bounce back strong from that. We're gonna get them back on Monday with everything. Other than that, everybody else is moving into full swing. I'd like to turn it over now to our student representatives to the board. And Alexis Justice and Trevor, you guys can have the floor, okay?
Okay, so, I just wanted to
So I'd like to turn it over now to Tricia Pilbetter, who's going to do a presentation on our curriculum and achievement update here.
Sorry, I don't know what happened to my computer while I was waiting. Yeah. I promise I had this completely set up. There we go. Okay. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So this evening I'm going to share with you a portion of the report card update. There are many components. I've presented to you all before about this. What I'm going to focus on this evening is achievement in terms of indicators met and growth, because that's what the community really is familiar with and what you all are really familiar with. And then moving past that, Yep. So then in future curriculum updates, I will be bringing other components of the report card to you, okay? As a reminder, achievement, that means that 80% of students scored 700 or better in order for us to meet that grade level test indicator. And then progress is about growth and students meeting growth expectations according to state test data. So the first thing that everybody's always interested in is a comparison of how we did compared to other districts in the county. Rather than get into the nuts and bolts of the actual percentages, because that's a lot of data because of about 19 or 20 test indicators, what I have here for you is for you to get a glance, at-a-glance view of how many tests the districts in Stark County passed in a range. At most, 13 tests were passed, and between 11 and 13, that was Jackson Lake. And so you can kind of scan across, and you see Canton Local, we did not pass any of our indicators for meeting that 80% benchmark. So that's super frustrating and disappointing and hard on teachers to see that data. What we're going to do is we're going to dig into that achievement data as indicators met a little more closely to see some other comparisons. Because what happens is, and this is specifically Canton Local's test data, the passage rate. Again, the state goal is 80% passage. So again, this doesn't tell us much, it just tells us that we didn't pass. So we're going to dig into that data and look a little closer to see what does this mean. One of the things I want to remind everyone of is the correlation between academic achievement and economic status, and academic growth and economic status. I really like this chart. Tom Nunziato from the ESC shared it with our administrators in 2019 at our DLT meeting. So what you see up in the chart in the left corner, top left corner, is that as wealth decreases, achievement decreases. Now it's not the cause, it's a correlation. We see that pattern and that trend. And so what we see down here is when you look at academic growth and economic status, it stays constant, okay? And so what this means is that it does not matter what the economic status, what the wealth status is of a student, everyone is capable of moving forward in their learning. So kids come to school at different points of readiness for their learning, whether they're in third grade, they may not be ready for third grade content, but we as a district need to expect all kids to grow at least a year and continue to hold their place in line, okay? So because I've shown you this, that's going to lead me to talking to you about, rather than comparing us to how we're doing compared to Stark County school districts, it's better for us to look at similar districts. Because when you think about the county schools, there's a lot of difference in wealth of the families and the kids and across the different districts. There's a difference in size, in population, in median income, different variables. So what the ODE website provides for us is a similar district comparison where we can type in our IRN number, our district information, and it will populate the schools that are similar to us in different categories. So these are the measures that they look at. For example, students flagged as economically disadvantaged, median income of the district, population density, percentage of population with a college degree or more, percentage of minorities, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to give, I've looked at this data before, but we did have our data support, Tom Fry, Dr. Tom Fry, who we have through purchase services, through our ESSER funds, pull this data for us, and these are the school districts. And you can see there are no districts in Stark County that are similar to us. And I'm looking across here. I think Portage is the closest county with Ravenna City. There's Columbiana with Salem City. So these are the districts that he captured, and he pulled data from these districts to get some comparisons to similar districts. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at accountability in terms of working toward goal 4. And so goal 1 is, did we meet or exceed similar district average achievement data? Goal 2, did we meet or exceed state average? Goal 3, did we meet or exceed our own pre-pandemic achievement? And then goal 4, always striving to meet that 80% benchmark. So we'll start by looking at language arts. In the first column we have, okay, so in the first column we have the tests. In this column we have what our current report card shows for our achievement scores. And now we have similar districts, the state average, and then what our pre-pandemic scores were. And what I've done here is I've color-coded it by, if you see yellow, that means that these grade level tests exceeded the similar district score. And when you look at the state column, the orange, you can see that that means that this grade level exceeded the state average. When you look in this column, you'll see nothing highlighted green because we did not meet or exceed our pre-pandemic levels. However, what we also looked at was a comparison of remote learners from last year and how they performed on the state test. So we disaggregated them, and then the in-person learners. And so when you look at the data in this way, and again, this is everybody, it's those 2021 achievement scores. So then when we look at our virtual learners, this is their average proficiency to 61% of students proficient. This is an anomaly. We need to dig a little deeper to figure out what was going on in 4th grade ELA. But you can see in the rest of the grade levels, in-person learners exceeded this year's scores. I'm sorry, wrong. The in-person learners exceeded the 2019 achievement scores, achievement percentages. So I think, we looked at this data early in the year when we were all up in a fluster about what to do about masks and do we offer remote learning, et cetera. And this is some of the data that we looked at, and we have talked to the board about this earlier this year, that we need our kids in person learning, and so that let us know. And then I'll just take you through the same for math. You can see that math has done a great job in terms of similar districts, exceeding similar district data, of many exceeding state percentages, and then 2019 not meeting those benchmarks, but let's take a look at in-person learners specifically. And all of those percentages exceed the 2019 percentages. So are we at 80% yet? No. But are we holding our own with our in-person learners? I think that's a really strong indicator. If we had been able to have everyone in person last year, we probably would have maintained at least through a pandemic our scores. And then you can see the same data here for science, 5th and 8th grade science, biology, government, history, how they did, and then meeting or exceeding those 2019 indicators. So the second thing I want to talk about tonight is progress, which is growth. And again, remember, this is where I'm saying, you know, we should be able to maintain every kid can maintain a year's growth. It is irrelevant compared to economic status. And so when you look here, we can see that we have some areas that we need to dig into and figure out what's going on, because this means that they were below, they made less than, there's evidence to show they made less than a year's growth. So that's a concern. When you see the yellow, they met their expected growth. And then I really want to highlight these green areas. So we have 7th grade math, 8th grade math, and 7th grade language arts. 7th grade language arts ranked 63rd in the state for growth. 7th grade math, 71st in the state, and 8th grade math, 76th in the state. And that's out of over 600 schools. So I really want to give credit to those teachers. And Dr. Fry said we need to be talking, meaning me and central office team, need to be talking to those teachers to figure out what do they think attributes to that strong growth for their students. And finally, you know, we look at this data, and one of the things that is really important is that you figure out what action you need to take as a result of the data. So I want to remind everybody that last year we did take our DLT looked at data, our BLTs looked at data, conducted a needs assessment, and developed improvement plans. So we kind of, you know, we were in the middle of a pandemic. We anticipated we were going to have some things that we definitely needed to focus in on. And then we made plans for that, and when we shared the federal funds, how we were going to use our ESSER funds for academics, you know, it was attributed to this needs assessment and these plans. So know that where it says number 2, this year we'll be continuing to do that same thing. So we're using our ESSER funds right now related to what our district improvement plan says. And we're using district and building in-service days toward that and also the professional learning community time in the buildings. But one of the things we need to do this year, and every year as part of the data cycle, is to be asking, what does the evidence tell us about our current course of action? So the things we're doing now. What evidence do we have that shows us it's working, not quite working? And so does that tell us that we need to intensify, strengthen, adjust, or add to the current course of action? So we're constantly evaluating, adjusting plans, and then we will be getting a new set of questions from the state and start that one needs assessment over again here shortly in December. So we're still working at it. Any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us down. Thank you very much, Mr. Trevor. And guys, I'm going to scoot back just a little bit. If you weren't here, I was identified as a close contact. So if I'm within 6 feet of somebody, I need to keep my mask on. But I'm going to scoot back so I can talk a little bit freer. As long as Mr. Schaefer, you're the closest. As long as you're good, buddy, I'm good. We'll be good to go. We're going to skip the finance and audit. Obviously, I think with the fact of the 5-year forecast, we've covered a lot of that. A lot of what I was going to say has been covered tonight by a lot of other people here, and I know we've had a lot of information thrown at us. I just want to take a second as we move to superintendent's update to say thank you. To say thank you to our students. To say thank you to our staff. And when I say staff, I mean our teachers, our administrators, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, our cooks. And guys, what's happening right now is truly unprecedented. The ladies and men that work in these buildings, in our cafeteria right now, we can't put out menus every week because we don't know what food we're going to have every week. They are working and getting what's coming in. It is always hard, and they are working overtime. And the stress level right now is at an all-time high, and I know that. And that's not just here in Canton Local. I think that's anywhere you go. I have a lot of friends in education. But while it is stressful, our students, our staff are rising to the occasion. We are very, very fortunate. We appreciate them. And it's all the way across the board. Our buildings, listen, you can walk in a Walker. That building, we know, we just talked about it. It looks great because our custodians, the pride, our staff, and everybody's taken into that. And it's true here. This is the center of all Canton Local right now. I mean, we have events going on down there. The pride that our ladies will put into it. So just want to say thank you. It's very, very successful sports season. You know, our girls tennis had 2 ladies make it on to pretty deep in the tournament run. Boys hosted their first home tournament soccer game in a really long time. Our girls won a home tournament soccer game. Our 7th grade volleyball team brought home the league championship. A lot to be excited about there. Our football team was back into the playoffs. We had our powder puff game. All the things that were mentioned. Mamma Mia was unbelievable. Our kids are so talented. I had the opportunity to go. Mr. Mon was there, as well as Mr. Stefanovich. This week in our 5th and 6th grade choir, as well as our Sounds of South, SOS, performed at the Math Museum for Veterans. There's so many good things going on. I can keep going, but a lot of it's been mentioned. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody for making those things happen. The last part of it that I want to talk to you about, though, that has been covered is our COVID numbers and our COVID updates. I've been giving those every single board meeting. I think it's important that we continue to do that so our community knows where we are, where we stand. As you guys know, on October 25th, the Ohio Department of Health updated their quarantine guidelines. I spoke with you guys, we put messages out on October 27th. We moved to follow the mask to stay, which is why I had to put that back on when I'm within 6 feet, test to play. Just to make sure you know, as we've gone through, we have seen, now, and when you look at these numbers, please know that we have an extended period of time between board meetings. Last board meeting, if you look at those numbers, we were only 3 weeks between board meetings because we moved it forward. This week, we're 5 weeks between board meetings, so just keep that in there. But we are now up to 124 confirmed cases of COVID. That is 45 new cases since our last board meeting. 26 have been at Walker, 26 at Faircrest, 70 here at the high school. 1 is a district employee that's not assigned to a building. Out of these, 105 have been students. 19 of these have been staff members. In addition to that, we've had 12 non-Canton Local students who attend either our CTE program and 1 who we transport to an alternative placement. Again, those numbers get placed into their school district. I just want to make sure you know if it's a Perry student, that number goes to Perry even if they step foot in here. You know, our big numbers we look at, we have had to quarantine out of school this year 523 students. That is up 94 since our last board meeting. Again, that includes those 45 new cases, as well as any siblings or anything like that, or could have been close contacts within the home. So just so you get those, I think the big number that you need to look at is we have been able to save 984 students from being quarantined, or staff members being quarantined out of the building. And that is up 599 since our last board meeting. So again, I just want you to have those numbers. One of the things I want to make sure we're really clear on, the mask to stay, test to play, that only is there if someone that's a close contact is non-symptomatic. So if I, as being a close contact now, if I had any symptoms whatsoever, even though I'm vaccinated, I could not mask to stay in school. If I have a symptom, I do have to stay home until I'm 24 hours symptom-free without any medicine or anything like that making it so that I am there. Or obviously testing. Part of our increase in numbers right now too is we are test to play. If you're in close contact, we are testing. And you are testing to be able to come back, and we are seeing an uptick in that. One of the cases we had brought into us was completely asymptomatic, but they had to test to go to an event outside of school they wanted to go to, came back positive even though they were asymptomatic, and we count that in. So So I think there's been an increase in testing as well. But I just want to keep you guys up to date with where we are on our numbers and what's happening. Here's the biggest thing I would tell you, and I need to say thank you to Victoria Hesse, who's sitting over there. Victoria's our Director of Special Services, but she's also our COVID coordinator. That is not a job you apply for, that's a job that you get assigned. Well, you're not allowed to pass it on either, because Mr. Milano assigned it, but I've held steady with it. Guys, we've looked into these, out of these 45 cases, because if I'm you guys, I say, man, that's an uptick. Well, that's an uptick. What are we doing? And looking with the mass, and if I'm a community member, I'm asking. Out of these new cases, only 3 of them can be traced to where we believe, so 1 plus the 2 more, so 3, that have some connection to this. A lot of them, and we look at this stuff every single day when they come in. All right, well, who's this connected to? Who is this connected to? Because we are constantly monitoring for spread. We've been doing it since the beginning of the year. We're continuing to do that. I just want to make sure you have all that information there for you, okay? And that's out there. Mrs. Hesse, did I miss anything on that? Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Chris.
Have you been able to look into the federal mandate for vaccinating of staff?
Yes, so actually just had that conversation after you and I spoke today, had that conversation with Jason, and last week we were down at Capitol Conference, and Jason actually went to a session down there on basically COVID and how it affects negotiations and labor relations and all of those things. And the attorney down there, and I got to do a follow-up on it, but this is, the attorney down there, and please correct me if I'm saying the wrong agency, said that would not go into effect for public schools unless it was, is it Bureau of Workers' Comp? That would have to mandate it for that as well.
They mentioned it's for all public employers in the state of Ohio.
But it doesn't matter that we accept federal funds. I thought that was part of the
And that was what you.
part of the hook. Is that when you accept federal funds, you have more than 100 employees.
That was what the attorney said though with that. I'm going to clarify more. I had that conversation in ours, but I am going to clarify more because obviously I want to make sure we're following everything we're supposed to.
Has that been brought up at any of your superintendent meetings?
It is not. I asked. We have one on the Thursday of this week as well. But with that being said, like I said, I think that's more of an attorney question too, to make sure that we're following all things with that. Okay. Other than that, we're going to move into the superintendent report now. And so we're going to start with resignations. The first, there's 2 there. The first one is Jen Bobbish. I'm so sorry, Mr. Schaefer, I just moved forward there. Sorry about that. Jen Bobbish. Jen's been our high school secretary, guys. While we are very, very sad to see Jen leave, we're very excited for her. She's accepted the position of superintendent secretary with Kim Redmond, who actually was the previous superintendent here a couple before me. And so just a great opportunity for Jen. And then Lindsay Corbin is resigning out of our kitchen staff here at the high school. And I'd like to just make a movement that we recommend that we would accept those. Moving into employment, and I'm going to start here with this one. And by the way, I want you to know she's passed her absolute first test. Here in the back, the first person I'd like to put up is Allison Foss. And Allison is back there waving to you right now. Allison is coming in as a school psychologist contract, but this is our behavioral coach that I've talked to each of you about. This is a position that we were looking at, Mrs. Hesse and our team was looking at prior to me coming in, prior to the pandemic. As we came back in looking to meet the needs of our students, we are very, very excited about the opportunity to get Allison with us. She has been doing a similar job working for the Starr County ESC. Anytime we can steal from them, we're really excited about that as well. And hopefully someone tells Joe Chaddock I said that. But we are excited to be able to steal and get Allison here with us. And guys, I don't know if you've noticed when you're talking to her, but she has had 2 little ones back there this entire time with a lot of stuff. Allison, we're excited to have you and looking forward to having you a part of the Canton local team here with us. The next one here, guys, I want to make sure I explain this next one here for us as well. And that's Dulcie Myers. Dulcie Myers should have been approved on an addendum to the agenda in June. As we were going through, we looked, that addendum was never read off. Jason went back through the minutes and we went back through. She should have been approved at that meeting, but it did not happen. It was caught, and we want to make sure we get it on there and go from there. Dulcie has been doing a phenomenal job as an intervention specialist for us at Walker. I see the people that work at Walker shaking their heads yes. But we just need to make sure that this is done right. It should have been on there in June. For some reason, it did not happen, and we need to make sure that that's on there right now. So just if you're wondering what's going on, I spoke with Dulcie to make sure that she saw her name being approved here in the November meeting. If she was wondering why, that's why. That should have happened back there. Other employment, Amanda Sabatino, moving from a 5.5 to a 4-hour position. That is her choice. Mary Franklin, we'd like to recommend to replace her as a 5.5 hour. Debbie Allen and Donna Dalton are coming in as new cafeteria workers here. That will now finally get our Canton South cafeteria up to full strength. We're excited about that. We'd like to make a recommendation for Carrie Taylor. Carrie's been a parapro for us at Faircrest. We'd like to recommend that she replace Jen Bobbage at the high school secretary. There's going to be some shifting around within that office, but she did an outstanding job in that process. We'd like to recommend her. To replace Carrie Van and Paige Parsons as an educational paraprofessional at Faircrest. Then Angela Feller for a spring musical supplemental contract. Christy Bennett, academic challenge advisor. This next one should have been done earlier. I just want to be straight up and honest with everybody. This was one that I take and drop the ball on with the changeover with at athletic department. Joe Rutherford ran the weight room for us in the fall. Joe has been approved as a coach with us here, but he should have been approved as the fall weight room coordinator. We are going to have the winter weightlifting coordinator on there for you in December to approve. Coach Dennison is working out exactly who that's going to be right now. He is doing it in the meantime until we get there, just to make sure you know exactly what's going on with that. The next ones here, you may be looking at these and thinking, didn't we already approve wrestling coaches? And the correct answer is yes, but there's one addition to these, and working through the athletic department, they wanted to get an additional coach, so we want to make sure these are put on there correctly. So instead of one full stipend, Jason Spencer, Jason Miller, Ryan Fickey, John Haslam, and Tyler Williams will now be joined by John Philippi, who had not been board approved, on 2/3 stipends. It all equals out to being the same, but we needed to make sure that they were approved for the right amount that Coach Rutherford and the athletic department wanted. We'd like to recommend, this is no stipend, but Scott Trahey, he is the swim coach at Perry. We have a student that is swimming, that would like to swim. He's in a career tech program at Perry and would like to just swim over there. He will swim under the banner of Canton South, but since we don't have our own team be there, we just need to make sure that that is board approved because, and Perry has accepted that we're covered there with that. And then our next two, Alyssa Burkhart and Brianna Dalton, to be added as substitute custodians and substitute paraprofessionals as needed. Get them on the list. And then Tyler Metz, will be a student worker out of our CDI program. We already have one student in this program. This is an additional one that we'd like to add on to begin working around the school as well. And I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve them. For gifts and donations, we've had an anonymous donation of $200 to the Boyd Scholarship. Marcia Johnston donated to the Thomas and Dorothy Babbitt Scholarship, $500. Smith Waco's Market to the Drama for $400. Perry Flooring and Design LLC donation to the Construction Trades, $100. Dutch Crafts donated to Construction Trades, $50. Addie Polaris LLC donation to the Construction Trades, $100. Pitts Fire Extinguisher donation, $50 to the Construction Trades. Iron Workers Local 550 donation to the Construction Trades, $150. East Central Ohio Building Construction Trade Council donation to the Construction Trades, $150. Norm Eckinger Industry donation of $150 Construction Trades. Scott and Jen Bunish, donation to boys basketball to the shooting gun, $2,000. The Canton South Athletic Booster Club to a track record board, $1,580. Canton South Athletic Booster Club donation to the boys golf fees of $1,400. John and Irene Stocker donation to Faircrest Memorial Veterans Day Program, $20. Ronald Harris donated to the Veterans Day Program, $25. Roger and Sherry Rodacker donation to Faircrest Memorial Veterans Day Program, $25. And Ralph Wellendorf donation to the Faircrest Memorial Veterans Day, $40. We'd like to obviously recommend that we accept those. Guys, the next one's the board policy reading. And this is the first reading. We receive an update from Neola almost twice a year, and this is what they told us one of the largest that they have seen. And what I'd like to do is recommend that we put up for our first reading the policies that are here. We went through them as an administrative team. We looked through them. These are designed to keep us up to date and legal with all Ohio revised codes, updates from ODE. That's why we paid that service for Neola. I did not see anything in there that is something like, hey, jumping out at you guys. But if you do read through them, we're going to put them back up for a second reading and approval at December. If you see any questions, if you see any concerns, if anything, please bring them to us. That's why we wanted to get them out to you now, knowing that they're going to come back here in December. Again, nothing that really jumped out to us. These are things that keep us in compliance with law and with where things are supposed to be. There were a couple things we had choices on, but they're highlighted in there for you. What would be things that we would be changing? And I'd like to approve that, or I'd like to recommend that we approve those. The next couple things, item E, this was discussed during the facilities meeting, but this is our contract with GPD for the design services for the Hayden Career Technical Center. So just for a few things, it's to authorize us to work with GDP to get things designed for HVAC, lighting upgrades, ventilation. Just a reminder, HVAC, ventilation will be paid for out of ESSER funds. Lighting will be paid for out of permanent improvement funds because we cannot pay those things out of ESSER. They have to be things for safety, upgrades, things like that better air quality can be for. And really, we're able to do this because it's less than $50,000 for the design work right now to get things rolling to go from there. I'd like to recommend that we approve that. The next two, sections F and G, deal with the new middle school and the furniture packages that are going with them. First of all, Continental Office Furniture, they have the lowest bid package for the office furniture that will go into the new building. They were one of two. This was done through our construction manager at risk. We only got 2 bids in. A lot of it right now, we were talking, and this is true for both of them. A lot of people were cautious to make bids because of supplies, everything where that stands right now. But Viva was happy with them when they came in. They are lower than what the state allowed. And Continental came in lowest for the office furniture. So we'd like to recommend that we go with them and start approving those contracts. And then if you move over to G, the selection of Martin Public Seating, this is for all of the other furniture that will be out in the classrooms and in the public areas out there. Same deal, one of 2 bidders that came in, they were the lowest bidder, and it falls well right within what the state said that we should be. In fact, it's slightly below that $10 per square foot with everything. And I'd like to make that recommendation. Item H, the resolution for employments of substitute teachers. As I think everybody's aware, there's a struggle right now to get substitute teachers. This is statewide. As a result, Section 4 of Senate Bill 1 was just enacted on October 28th, allowing boards of education to pass a resolution allowing us to employ substitute teachers for only the remainder of this school year that do not have 4-year college degrees. They still have to pass background checks. They still have to get a substitute license through the Ohio Department of Education. We can't just start picking people off the street. But it expands that pool that we can use here. The resolution that's put in there was sent out to us through Neola, our legal services that we use, that they recommended this would be the wording that we use. We will still operate and get our subs through the Stark County Educational Service Center. This would just allow us to utilize their pools that have the license through ODE to be able to use. And I'd like to recommend that we approve that to give our schools, principals, more flexibility in being able to get people in here to cover classrooms as needed. And again, guys, that resolution expires at the end of this year. There's no carryover into next year in any way, shape, or form with that. And then the final one for me here is flyer approval. And this is item I. We had the Canton Elite Dance and Twirl Academy submitted a flyer to us for distribution. It does not meet our board policy of being a 503c or 501c nonprofit organization. However, they are offering a free service to Canton local students, not making money off of our Canton local students. They wanted to offer a free service to them. I thought it was willing to do that, but I did not want to approve it when it was not within board policy without getting the approval of the Board of Education. Like I said, this is something where they are not making money off of our students. That's what we were checking into. It's free to them. But again, we didn't want to approve something to go out that was not board approved when it did not meet exactly within our board policy. But yet we thought it was worthwhile because it did provide a service to our kids. And so I'd like to recommend that we approve that flyer distribution. And that wraps up my recommendation.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to make a motion that we approve
substitute rule, which, you know, was passed, and we're obviously going to take advantage of it. So the other things are just in very preliminary stages, so nothing really.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're up to item 12, which is questions pertaining to the agenda items or board actions. Does anybody have any questions regarding anything that we've covered this evening? All right, if not, we're going to move to item 13, which is other business. Business Advisory Council.
Yep, and so again, guys, we did this, I believe, at the last meeting or the September meeting. The Stark County Educational Service Center meets with the Stark County Chamber of Commerce and other Business Advisory Council. They provide us with these minutes that they've met with. We go over them at our superintendent's meetings when we have them. I just want to remind you, while we are doing this, as we move into January, into our strategic plan, one of the big things I want us to do, and looking for us to do, is reach out to our business community, reach out to our businesses, bring them in and have conversations and be able to report back what we're seeing, because I think it's very, very important that we start to really connect with the businesses in the community here. And so just want to make sure that's always out there, that that's something we're looking to do as we move into January and into those discussions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 14, executive session. No need for executive session this evening.
No need for me.
Right. Okay, so item 15, adjournment. I'm going to so move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Shaver? Mr. Cole? Mr. Brothers? Mr. Knight? Mr. Hamilton?
Aye. All right, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Please have safe travels getting back home.